Absolutely. Well, look, I really appreciate you coming on to join us here, guys. Obviously, we got another UFC main event breakdown on tap here at the Scrap today. We will explore the main event of UFC 305. Dricus Du Plessis defends his middleweight championship against Israel Adesanya. But today I'm joined by Michael, who's a coach at City Kickboxing, and I'm sure he's had the chance to see Israel Adesanya, far more than most people have, right? I mean, again, how's everything going? You all right today?
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, we're obviously deep in camp because we've got yet again at City Kickboxing, we've got multiple fighters on the cards,
Yeah.
with Hooker and Kai as well. So, and all of those fights are high level, high risk, high reward fights. So, there's a real intensity as we head into this last 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we are here to discuss the main event, but I mean, for people who may not know, you are also, I'm sure, working extensively with these other high class guys, right? I'm sure it's not just Israel Adesanya. You guys have a whole team there, right? So credit, just to give some credit to the whole team, not just an individual. It's a great team you guys got there, right?
Yeah, we've been fortunate to have some really good athletes and to get to work at a very high level. And I think that's the thing that probably is understood more in the States than it is in New Zealand. The elite level that these guys are operating at. Those three have all been in the top five. Obviously, everyone knows about Izzy, but Kai and Hooker as well. So that's the elite of the elite, and it's a privilege to be working with them.
For anyone that may not know, Michael, I mean, I know, of course, but can you just touch on, some of your experience as a coach and where you coach present day and maybe even some of your fighting experience? Like, what's your background in the sport?
Okay, I competed. I was a kickboxing world champ back
Not
in
too shabby.
1999, 1998. It was an ABC title, but I'll claim it. But I was fortunate to be part of the gym where Ray Seppo originated from,
Yeah, nice.
which is Balmoral Liga. In fact, all of us coaches here at City Kickboxing, myself, Doug, Eugene, Tristram, our heritage all comes from Balmoral Liga and those days when K1 was at its height. So spent a bit of time cornering in Japan, actually commentating with Michael Chiavello also in K1, at its peak when Tokyo Dome had 70, 80,000 people in there. So, that's been 30 years coming in terms of the current peak of MMA in New Zealand, certainly. So, overnight success is always built on the back of a lot of grind behind the scenes.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. As far as, calling fights and all that, that is something you do as well, right? It seems like you're a pretty multifaceted guy in the space. You call fights for Hex Fight Series, correct?
Yeah, I've called it for Hex. I've called it for K1.
Oh, okay, one as well.
Called,
Oh, that's sick.
yeah, yeah, across the board. But I think that's the function of being in a small country. You have multifaceted people who are flexible with their skills and take on multiple roles. So it's just the nature of the game. And there's worse things than to get to live your passion, living a life less ordinary. We all do it. Most of us can't make a living in professional sports, so we're privileged.
Absolutely. So, not to take up too much of your time here, we will get into this main event. I'm sure you got a lot going on for you. Especially in times like these, right? When you're in the thick of camp, like you just said. The last time we saw Israel Adesanya right in action against Sean Strickland, it sort of felt like maybe he was never able to get going. Perhaps Strickland's awkward style has a lot to do with something like that. But, what do you think in a fight like that? What do you think was a primary thing that went wrong? Is it credited more so to Strickland's style that stifles people like that?
I think you can always have things in the background that you can point to, but at the end of the day, any fighter who's been through a camp will go into fights with things going on behind the scenes that you may not see,
Sure.
and to point to that is I think takes credit away from Sean, takes credit away from Eric. Sean sucks away your space. He's got a very unconventional, jerky style. He uses that long arm lead forearm guard very well. He does that step up tie kind of teep, and he's got a decent chin. And look, he landed a cracking right hand very early in the fight, and that was as a result of doing a lot of film study, and Eric talked about that. We made a mistake, and that actually changed. I think had a major impact on the fight. He landed that right hand. He took that first round, a round which Izzy was probably winning, and we don't know what the impact of getting cracked on the jaw and then big follow up thumps from Sean Strickland as he likes to do.
Yeah.
So it was just a great fight. He sucked out the oxygen as he couldn't get going, but you have to credit Sean for that. And we've seen him do it again to other fighters, and he arguably won against Dricus as well. That was a very close fight.
Yeah.
Which you could argue going either way. So underestimate Sean at your peril is probably what I would suggest. He's a very, very difficult, awkward fighter. And like Dricus, he has a gas tank. And that gas tank doesn't empty. He's a diesel engine that will keep on coming.
And that fight between Strickland and Du Plessis was very close indeed. That's very true. Could have gone either way. Speaking of the Strickland fight against Adesanya, that was just 10 months ago, right? It looked like Izzy wanted to take way more time off initially. Is it fair to say the guy just loves to compete? I mean, as a champion, he was incredibly active as well, right? Is it fair to say the guy just loves doing this? He can't get away from it?
Oh, I mean, there's a little bit of tongue in cheek. I'm going to take 7 years off and go and play golf. At the end of the day, when you've had over 100 fights, you maintain a really active schedule. It's inevitable that the rubber bands of the body can wear out a little, and physically taking a break and mentally taking a break isn't a bad thing at times. So I think it's more about that. You know, it's not really. There was never really. We're going to take 7 years off. You just do the maths. It's not going to work like that. So we're here. We're looking forward to this fight. I think it's about that. Everyone wants to see. Dricus kicked it off with his on the real African statement, and I was born in Africa and all the rest. And we may as well start there because that's what kicked it off. Dricus is many things, but he isn't stupid. That was a calculated statement. I make no apologies for suggesting that's calculated. That a guy from Nigeria with broken native written across his chest with the continent of Africa across his chest is going to feel very, very attached to his homeland. So, clever marketing. Well done, Dricus. He knows, the whole history of South Africa as well. That's going to motivate people. It's great. It's built this fight to a much higher level than perhaps it might have been otherwise. So, and here we are. And I think there is a pretty fair degree of animosity there, based on that. Great marketing, great way to get under someone's skin, and and the world is now watching.
So you're suggesting it's more of a marketing ploy as opposed to a more organic conflict?
I would suggest it's a combination of them both.
Right, because you did say that they don't like each other. You did mention that for sure, but maybe I'm thinking it's Dricus may have done it a bit more intentional than I thought now that you say it. So I mean, it's possible, right?
Look, as I said, he's got a smart camp. Dricus himself is very smart. Generally speaking, his coach will play a little bit of the heel and Dricus will play the gentleman. That's again a classic tactic that many coaches have done in the past. Kevin Barry, David Tua comes to mind from a New Zealand example. And look, he's got the moral high ground. He's also got a good portion of the continent of Africa behind him, and he's a great fighter. That's the nature of the game. It's smart. Everyone plays both marketing and mind games. And at the highest level, at the elite level, those things can make a difference. Conor not being able to get inside Habib's head made a difference. Conor not being able to get inside Nate Diaz's head made a difference. You know, you saw the difference when Connor made people insane with rage versus guys who were just focused and let it wash over them. And so I don't think that's something you can necessarily discount with fighters. The mental aspect, when you're talking about decimal points of percentages which give you an edge, is a big part of the fight game.
How is Izzy taken to this whole thing mentally? Is it something that's lit a fire under him? Is it something that's sort of angered him behind the scenes? How is he with this whole situation?
I mean, he's very measured, but quite clearly everyone's seen the response. Everyone knows how he feels about that. I don't think it's a great secret, and it's ignited debate and it's ignited interest in the fight. But you know, he's had I think 115 fights. Over a long career with multiple opponents. So regardless of the to and fro on the marketing side of things, at the end of the day, they're both very focused. They're both elite athletes. Dricus is the champion, and we're coming.
Izzy is definitely sharper, faster, longer, more technical. I'd say one of the few advantages I would give Dricus Du Plessis, to my eye, I'd say is the power. Do you agree with that? And as far as Dricus, what he does, is there anything he does good that people may overlook? Is there anything that could be a legitimate threat in this fight?
I think Dricus offers legitimate threats across the board. People underestimate him because he's got a jerky, offbeat style.
Yeah, definitely.
It's unorthodox. Yeah, sure, he can actually be easy to hit, particularly early. But he's got long arms. He's got a long reach. He has one punch power. He switch hits. It wouldn't surprise me if he's a natural left leg kicker, right hander. He's got a very good left kick. And he plays his high guard game well. He knows what he can do, and he does it very well. And that's before you even start to talk about, he's got that brute kind of strength about him. He's got a good judo background. Coming from South Africa, I have no doubt he's got some big brutes that he works with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
He's a beast of a guy.
Yeah,
So
he is.
you underestimate him because he ain't pretty, but he's very effective. He knows what he can do. He's a smart fighter. He feels he's on the ascendancy, and he's extremely confident. He's up for the challenge, and you've got to remember too that gas tank of his. So that will tell you that both, yes, we've looked at him very closely, and two, you can't underestimate him. And I think that's a mistake that people have made. And he grapples well as well.
Sure.
He's got a heavy pressure passing style, heavy ground and pound. He'll take you back pretty quick. There's a lot of dangers in a guy like Dricus, and when you add in that Shrek strength that he has, where perhaps he doesn't need to be quite as technical as other people might, because he will just muscle you into position. So, very dangerous proposition. And I guess in a fighter's career, people have already alluded to it. Israel's in his mid-30s now. Dricus is on the way up. You have different iterations of your career, and I think this is very much a legacy fight for Israel. You can be a dominant champion, but you also have to fight off the next tier of talent coming through. To really etch your name in the legacy annals, and this is one of those fights. Dricus is the next tier of talent coming through, and we've seen him deal with Pereira coming back after that Pereira knockout. It's very hard to knock someone out after you've been stopped previously, particularly with the background of those two.
Yeah,
So we've already
historically,
seen it.
even it's not really, the chances aren't great.
Yeah, and so the intestinal fortitude and the mental fortitude of the guy is impregnable. And then you come to, right, well, now you have to prove yourself up against a guy who is hungry. He's in his prime. He's at his peak. He's full of confidence. And traditionally those guys tend to get better, as they grow. And Dricus has been one of those guys. His confidence has grown with his UFC career. It's been a long time coming. And so, that's a big tall, hard ask. And it is a legacy fight.
So you mentioned sort of, Du Plessis. You have to etch your name, and to want to etch your name in stone, you're gonna have to take out a lot of guys, right? Adesanya really did establish himself as champion because he took out quality opponents. So that's why I'm curious, where do you see Dricus? Let's say there was like a tier grading system here, right? As far as everyone Izzy's faced, maybe we put Pereira at the top of that list, right? Where would Dricus Du Plessis fall on that? Is he towards the top tier of fighters Izzy's faced? Like, I don't mean this as a question to set up like, to take shots at Dricus or anything, but I'm genuinely curious as far as where you guys see him. Do you see this as Izzy's toughest fight to date?
We see Dricus as the current UFC champion, and we are the top contender. And this is a cliche because it's true. Every fight is your toughest fight to date. Everyone brings different skill sets, and it's how those skill sets match up. There's a reason cliches come to the fore. So styles make fights. Dricus's style is a very, very difficult and unorthodox style. And it's not always about just the silkiness of your skills. There's other intangible qualities that come in. So we are ready for a very rugged, drawn out dogfight.
Now, because you did mention the grappling of Du Plessis, that it was impressive. And according to Du Plessis, right, there was a workout years ago in Thailand between the two of them, right? Now, again, according to both of them, not just Dricus, apparently Du Plessis got the best of Izzy, apparently in the grappling exchanges. I mean, that's just what they said. You know, this was a number of years ago, right? So a lot of things changed, right? And I'm sure Izzy was quite early in the MMA game, right? Being that he comes from a kickboxing background. But how do you favor Izzy's chances against a guy like Du Plessis in the grappling?
I mean, it is what it is. 10 years ago, that's a decade. All
Right,
right.
exactly. That's why I
And
preface
and
with
what
that. Yeah,
happens in the training room and all those factors.
sure.
Um, you know, I mean, we've heard stories of AJ being knocked out, in boxing.
Yeah.
You get guys who get chinned by sparring partners.
Absolutely.
Uh, None of that matters
Mhm.
because so much water has gone under the bridge. One training session once when one guy got the better of someone in one particular exchange, it means whooped his shit, to be honest. Yeah, it's nice to sit in your memory banks, but I think if you used to train together for 12 months and you're regularly getting your ass whooped, maybe that would have more
Sure.
prevalence. But
This is a long time
I
ago.
just think it's something that's, yeah, we stick it in the memory banks, but and how we react to getting our ass kicked in the gym, that also determines and dictates what a champion is. Let's not forget, Yoel Romero couldn't hold Izzy down, couldn't take him down. Derek Brunson couldn't get him down, and we know that Derek took Dricus down. So, you know, time
It's
moves
true.
on. Dricus will have improved since then as well.
They
So
both
we
improved.
don't we we don't operate in this kind of time freeze silo. These guys are elite athletes who have developed so that they're the top of the MMA game, and that's how we look at it.
So we mentioned the grappling, right? In the stand-up, right? I mean, I think it goes without saying, right? Adesanya seems to be sharper, quicker, more technical. I don't think it takes a genius to see that, right? How do you see this going in the stand-up, right? Maybe more of a back and forth fight than people think, or do you see Izzy just having a clear-cut advantage there?
Obviously, as he's striking is very clean. He's very long. He's got a reach advantage. He's got all those facets. And Dricus likes to push the pace. He wants to get in the mid range. He's got a good chin. He's going to provide pressure, and he doesn't really stop. And no doubt he would have watched fights like Strickland. He would have had a look at that. His team's smart, so they would have had a look at that,
Right.
determined how they're going to approach this fight, and as we would have had a look at it, and we would have made adjustments as well. I think Dricus's striking, as I said right from the outset, is highly underestimated. It is very good. He had a lot of K1 experience early. He is written off because he's jerky, but his option taking is good. His range is good. He's actually got a good high guard defense. He's got various attacking arsenals. He's a switch hitter. So, it's going to be a very, very interesting stand-up exchange before we even get to the grappling. So, we'll see. Both of us will have plans in place. And, he who executes better generally wins the fight, and that's just how it is. All I can say is we know what he brings. No one's underestimating him. And, I think the thing about Israel having been a dominant champ for so long is people have grown up now watching him for, at least half a generation. So they'll have had a look at tape. They will be having a look at his patterns and habits and what he does. And fortunately, Dricus has now had a few fights. He's had 5 rounders. So we will be doing the same and looking to exploit those options and take advantage where we can.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you mentioned the Sean Strickland fight, right? I think it's interesting because it looked like, again, and I mentioned it, kind of touched on it in the beginning, Strickland was able to push that pace, change sort of the way the fight went. Do you think Dricus looks at something like that and says, that needs to be my game plan? Because, I mean, it's easy to copy a game plan when it works, right? Do you think he's maybe looking at something like that and saying, that's something I need to, that's something I need to implicate? And has Izzy sort of been working behind the scenes to make sure he's able to deal with a style like that in the future? He doesn't maybe get stifled like that. Things like that maybe don't happen in the future.
I think you can take that too far, in the sense that Strickland suffocates you, but he's got that hybrid Philly shell lead forearm defense. Dricus is different. He operates a different defensive system. So he will have to approach that pressure in a slightly different way. And he'll be vulnerable to things that Strickland isn't vulnerable to, and he'll be better at defending other things that Strickland isn't so good at defending. I just suggest you've got a different fight and a different set of skills clashing here. And that's what's going to be intriguing about the matchup. But look, no question, anyone's going to have a look at that fight and go, okay, well, if I suffocate his space, I take away that, maybe maybe that's going to nullify what he can do. But you've seen people who've blitzed in before. You've seen what happened to Whitaker. You've seen other people get clipped by a very accurate striker. So you've got to be cautious.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. It feels like a lot of MMA fighters have come out and said, that Izzy will win the fight. They have those compilation videos and all that where you got the MMA fighter picks. I mean, is that a coincidence, or are they seeing something that people like me with the casual eye, are failing to see? Because you seem pretty confident, but of course, you're his coach, you're going to be confident. I would imagine Dricus and his coaches are confident. But again, like, do you think that the more educated fan maybe sees something that a schmo like me doesn't see?
Oh, look, I think we can buy into too much. I mean, I'm a pretty good analyst of the game, and I've picked things well wrong in the past, because of a stylistic matchup or because of a fighter's ability to step up. All I can say
Yeah,
right now that Dricus has shown the ability to step up with every step. Israel has shown the ability to deal with a wide variety of styles at every step. He's had a couple of stumbles along the way, but again, those stumbles have come at the elite level, after pretty much lapping the division.
no doubt
So,
about it. Yeah.
the ability to learn and come back is pretty key. And that's one of the things that separates Israel from a lot of athletes is his learning agility and his ability to adapt and adjust quickly. It's also his ability, and this goes back to what you're asking about, what happens in the training room. It's his ability to accept certain positions, and try things in training until he gets it right and he's comfortable getting a hiding in training. in order to make something work. So, as I said, as with Dricus, you don't want to underestimate him, but you certainly don't want to underestimate Israel, because that is perilous as well.
Yeah, well said. Now, look, we do appreciate the time here. I want to ask you here, so we could finish this off. Any final predictions for the fight? How do you see it playing out? I'm not asking you to give me round 2 knockout or anything, but just from a coach's perspective, how do you see it playing out in a general sense?
Look, both of these guys will try and dictate with their own particular style. I don't see this as being a fight that's finished early. I see it as a fight that's going deep. They've both gone 5 rounds before. They both have good gas tanks. And it's going to be about who can dictate with rhythm and style in this fight. As I said right from the start, we're dealing with a guy who doesn't just have a diesel engine. We're dealing with a guy who has a diesel engine with a shot of high octane,
Right.
bursts throughout the rounds. So,
Right.
that's something you're going to have to navigate, and we're expecting that, and we're readying ourselves for that. And no doubt Dricus will be as well.
Michael, I really want to thank you for joining us, providing the great insight on this fight. Look, again, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to spend the time. We'll see you in Perth, boys and girls.